The open source model for intelligence must be reinforced on the substructure of decentralization, which would encourage open co-action amongst thinkably credible and proven information resource mobilizers, peer production of pre-processed blueprints and documentation for application in open source appropriate technology that will generate actionable and timely intel will definitely and invariably go a long way in determining future open source intelligence standards. So, communication of actionable intelligence antedates modern day internet and personal computers. Therefore, going back in time, when we look at the period of the ARPANET, there have been think tanks and developers who promoted a request for commons. A request for commons to help in procedures for attracting responses in the formation of nascent telecommunication networks and protocols, which eventually led to the birth of the world's biggest collaborative project called the Internet in the year 1969. The open source worldwide redistribution model for information, knowledge, intelligence, and code is behind the success of the Apache Software Foundation, Usenet Networks, Internet Relay Chats, Gopher, Berkeley Software Redistribution, and even household name Linux, which is the bedrock that supports all digital electronic open source intelligence platforms, ecosystems, cloud networks, and servers. So, as we see in the sphere of software development, they said knowledge good, and therefore, for intelligence gathering, what the analysts might surmise obviously would be intel good, even though it's not poetic and doesn't rhyme at all. So, what we need is for benchmarking standards and for analyzing vertically, what we need is battery open source intelligence index for exactly mapping the credibility, verifiability, and timely accuracy of information, as mentioned about setting standards. So, therefore, we know that artificial intelligence, we've always discussed and always mentioned, as per the United States Department of Defense, CEDA, artificial intelligence was developed and was evolved for funding, which basically is nothing but machine learning, which translates into statistics at scale. Therefore, for all intelligence gathering, government military organization needs and hands down elementary and uncomplicated intel analytics dashboard. Why? For logarithmically extrapolating from the different inferences and diagrammatically recording the actionable findings. So we have a whole lot of host of business intelligence dashboards provided by some information technology giants. But in the past, when such solutions and capability were not around, we most of us we augmented the power of cloud-based office automation software. But in today's time and age, as we have to keep moving and evolving with the time, so therefore, this reminds us of one instance where you do not have proper empirical testings in real joint warfighting simulations and real warfighting scenarios and contingency planning and situational analysis. What happened was, in one instance, the global positioning system, the internal satellite navigation system of a fighter jet aircraft, it became inoperable. Maybe due to electronic multi-pronged electronic warfare interference with the systems. So therefore, the pilot had no other option but to rely on hand portable global positioning systems. So Simon Cole, in one of his uh, assessments, had said that the statistical models were flawed, and therefore the defense has maintained that nothing had been tested empirically, which can mean maybe in real joint warfighting scenarios and during simulations. So therefore, so as we all know that your military grade computers and your handheld mobile devices, they all they are like the basic building blocks of all warfighting military grade weapons systems. So therefore, one must take inspiration from the duality principle of mathematics, especially focusing on Boolean algebra. So you can take timely note of CESA's and National Security Agency's clairvoyance great premonition on this. So they have published a lot of documents and manuals and reports on what how to avoid this predicament in case you encounter one. So therefore, this needs proper focus, and also because some of the world's greatest intelligence and counterintelligence organizations know pretty well about the prettification of everything mathematically embellished. So, all organizations, I mean, all defense and military intelligence organizations at all levels, they know what exactly it is to, uh, when they say the prettification of everything mathematically embellished. So, so cognitively, it would translate into something like what arithmetic operators are to elementary algebra, logical operators are to Boolean algebra. So, yes, cognitively, strategically communicating it would mean arithmetic operators in the field of elementary algebra and logical operators in the field of Boolean algebra. So, uh, sometime, I mean, way back when George Boole he analyzed logic mathematically, uh, and now you know that this isn't just mathematics uh, in operation, because here logic is being extrapolated and logic is being experimented with mathematically. So this isn't just psychedelically mind bending. So this is not just psychedelically mind bending, because see, mathematical operators, arithmetic operators, and then analyzing human logic, okay, using these operators. So this is not just psychedelically mind bending, but a lot more. So Sir Huntington and Sir Henry M. Sheffer and Sir Charles Sanders Peirce, they've all studied and simulated the logical science on different timelines. So it's been a joint effort, starting on the timeline. If you look at it, I mean, historically, if you do some historical analysis, you will see George Boole, Sir Huntington, Sir Henry M. Sheffer, and Sir Charles Sanders Peirce all having studied and simulated this logical science on different timelines. So you might also go deeper and deeper, again, way back to understand algebra's origins from Babylonia to Greek geometers and to Alexandria. So again, for those who have the pangs of inquisitiveness, wanting to dive deep into historical significance, can do so. Moving ahead, we also know that Boolean algebras, there was this romantic movement against for the philosophical kinds and the literary lovers, the literature lovers, those with a um, deep appreciation for uh, literature across the timeline. So you see that there's been a romantic movement. There was in the year, I think probably sometime around the 20th century. Yes, probably some way back around the 20th century. So what happened during that period? Boolean algebras. It got hooked to the Boolean algebras. I mean, it got metamorphosed as the Boolean algebra's romantic movement, and it did not just affect mathematicians. That was the beauty of it. Its magnetism, it pulled engineers towards it as well. Proper engineers with uh, extensive experience, and this joint interest in Boolean algebra's romantic movement by the mathematicians and the engineers, like both felt the magnetism and both got attracted towards it. This led to the evolution for conducive conduction of elementary electrons in fragile digital circuitry. So, engineers and mathematicians combined their skills during the Romantic movement to find conducive environment for conduction of elementary electrons, subatomic particle electrons in the fragile digital circuitry. So, De Morgan's laws, Augustus De Morgan's laws, they uphold precisely this, to establish the verity of values and principles, both dynamically and effectively, when the plus and the multiplication symbols are interchanged. So the role gets reversed in role reversal order. I mean, they have the when they do it for logic to analyze mathematical logic, and they put it onto truth tables. So the role it's um, indispensable. The role reversal is indispensable. Okay, so we see that also new phylogenesis. Therefore, applying these all dynamics, new phylogenesis for examining open source intelligence level actionable intel as per De Morgan's laws on truth tables. Now, as previously we discussed about, we were talking about the battery open source intelligence index, like a global benchmarking standard to verify and to establish the accuracy and credibility of intelligence and information. So precisely, we are now looking at doing the same on logic truth tables, applying De Morgan's laws. So this has been what has been primal in the ontogenesis of modern digital electronics. Now, this is quite interesting. What has been primal in the ontogenesis of modern digital electronics programming languages? It also impacts set theories and statistics. So taking it back to the earlier deliberation, we have always mentioned, it's getting quite hackneyed now. US Department of Defense, CDAOs, artificial intelligence is equal to machine learning is equal to statistics at scale. Therefore, Boolean algebra, they will ultimately, the science of Boolean algebra, the mathematics of Boolean algebra is ultimately, the logic of Boolean algebra is ultimately going to impact your artificial intelligence. And soon, someone was saying that probably 2025 is the year for the advent of artificial general intelligence. I don't know. I don't know. This analysis is based on adding the numbers or looking at the relevance, significance of the year 2021. Oh, sorry, from 2021 to 2025. Hard to say, but I was reading that there's a whole lot of. There's some lot of talk going around that 2025 being the year of the ushering of artificial general intelligence. So, let's see how Boolean algebra is going to impact this incredible science. So therefore, a lot of alleviation and a lot of alleviation and a lot of facilitation will take place, which will definitely impact and power the global information dominance experiments, which I believe in the near future will be the backbone of most military grade domain specific intelligence. Uh, yes, the conjunction, the intersection of the impact of Boolean algebra on artificial intelligence, evolving into artificial general intelligence, which is going to impact and elevate the global information dominance experiments. And in the near future, this is again going to be like the foundation backbone for most military grade domain specific intelligence. So your GIDE and your joint, and what level of uh, the agentic AIs, what level of impact the agentic artificial multimodal uh, artificial intelligence models are going to have on your joint all domain command and control systems. Uh, the and the ISR activities, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance activities. When you look at the multi-domain battlefield operations, so this needs to be analyzed. The legends out there, the legends and the senior most legends out there would call for structured analysis techniques, deployment of structured analytical techniques to sound relevant or to sound comprehensible, and to look at the associations and to look at the impact. Uh, or maybe if we could just do it in a spreadsheet. I am not very sure at the moment, but let's see. Uh, so because we know precisely and squarely, we know that artificial intelligence plays a significant role in global information dominance experiments and research. So let's look at some of the analysis and how it's being utilized. When we talk about data analysis, it has been analyzing mammoth volume of data collected from global sensor networks. So it is not just the data that humans are creating, it is also a data that the sensors are producing. It is not just you through your smartphones and through your computers and through your activities, through the digital footprints, the data that you have been creating. It's also about the kind of data that the sensors are giving a little, see the kind of the mesh of electronic surveillance around us, the mesh of satellite capabilities overhead. So all this, uh, feeding data from all these inputs into the global information dominance model and getting credible intel to facilitate in future multi-domain battlefield operations, and as a result having a significant impact on your joint all domain command and control activity. So so because this kind of data, this level of intelligible data, will be used to achieve information dominance and decision making it's all about information superiority and decision making superiority. Therefore, looking at some pragmatic real world scenarios, we know that artificial intelligence has been used in global information dominance experiments to replicate real world operational scenarios, which allows the United States and other powerful military alliance uh, joint warfighting capabilities, joint warfighters. It provides them with, especially the United States Department of Defense, to learn and adapt in a controlled experimentation environment. Because what you have been simulating, what you have been practicing, and what you have been empirically doing time and again in your controlled environments experimentally, this is undoubtedly going to have an impact. Undoubtedly, this is going to have an impact on the uh, warfighting capabilities, the future warfighting capabilities of uh, uh, the military alliance and Department of Defense warfighters. So this was one. Second, we will also be focusing on the generative AI models, okay, the generative artificial intelligence models. The generative artificial intelligence models is will now, I mean, so far it hasn't achieved or hasn't reached a saturation point, still evolving, because we are yet to see an agency, polynational, intercontinental military defense or agency claiming that they have achieved artificial general intelligence. So there is that hasn't really reached its operational capacity, and it's like it hasn't hit the upper ceiling. But we have behavioral AI models now also impacting generative AI models. So a whole lot of behavioral analytics, human behavioral analytics, uh, uh, being infused into the generative AI models. So what the DoD has been doing is they've been integrating multiple generative AI models into a series of global exercises. So these models can generate, what can they generate? Content, text, audio, code, images, videos, and other type of media based on the prompts as and when they are required, and especially with the data which is being used for training purposes. So we see that a lot of joint all domain command and control capability augmentation with the with in close conjunction with global information dominance experiments, and the solutions related to joint data integration, and the solutions as a result, the solutions which are being provided for joint data integration. So what is the end game or the goal, which is to improve access to data across the joint force, for all levels of strategic and tactical, providing this level of data. I mean, the goal is to provide access to data across the joint force or fighting capability. from the strategic level to the tactical level warfighters. Also, to speed up the process, this would also help in overcoming bureaucratic hurdles. The Chief Digital Artificial Intelligence Office of the US Department of Defense, which aims to develop muscle memory to overcome bureaucratic hurdles for sharing information with allies more quickly. Okay, so sharing information with allies more quickly, speed, scale, impact. So therefore, in summary, we see that AI plays a crucial role in enhancing the capabilities of global information dominance systems by improving data analysis, replicating real-world scenarios, generating content, informing joint all-domain command and control solutions, and overcoming bureaucratic hurdles. So if you connect the dots, all the dots now, everything that we've discussed so far, we see that in time-bound intelligence affairs, which is what it is, so we will use a whole lot of mathematical, logical functions, constants, algebraic expressions for establishing mathematical and logical relations between elements of a given set in domain of functions to identify associations with the elements of another set. It's all about establishing associations, finding common ground for operations. Now we will make way for the grand entry of infinitesimal. A whole lot of students I know, so they're pretty amazing in doing in solving calculus problems, both integral and differential. So we're making grand entry for the infinitesimal calculus for using diagrammatic depiction, we'll be applying idempotence. Idiom, which is same, and potence is power. So for intelligence analysis, open source intelligence analysis, around close to about 90% of what all experts are looking at today. At all level of operations, the net effect, which is the idempotence, idiom being same, potence being power, this should remain constant, same, over and over for repeated applications. So we can use Venn diagrams to see how this works out. So therefore, we'll be applying, experts will be applying intelligent operations manifold times without transformative variance in outcome. Intelligence analytics activity, apply intelligent operations manifold times without transformative variance in outcome. So therefore, the intel operation that's retained power just as when initially applied. So obsolescence or depreciation of machinery, like you do in the books of accounts, that does not apply here, must not apply here in any model looking at functional actionable intelligence programming by virtue of idempotence. So looking at this theory, this philosophy, so obsolescence or depreciation of machinery, as it works out with the books of accounts, this must not apply in functional actionable intelligence programming by virtue of idempotence. So yes, so we can look at it, analyze it using Venn diagrams and umpteen times. When you look at it umpteen times, because you are trying to look at what is common in your analysis. What are the useful associations? So therefore, because otherwise you'll only be distracted by abstractionist algebraic principles. So this distraction must not so this distraction must not come to fruition. This level of distraction must not come to fruition. So you'll be left only in the vicious circle of abstractionist philosophy. So that's why the theory of idempotence, which should make you jump these distractions and look at the new domains of intel operations. So therefore, so can we make binary operations idempotent in the Boolean algebra domain? Okay, so we will have to look at a whole lot of logical conjunctions and disjunctions for whether the your this level of idempotency in your intelligence operations holds water. You will have to see with a whole lot of logical conjunctions and disjunctions logically. So one way of doing it is integer sequencing the integers. So you have to sequence integers and you have to see what is being derived through this. All right. So moving on, we see open source intelligence operations, which can be derived from Boolean algebraic computer science notions of imperative and functional programming, which is imperative for idempotency if the signals, signals intelligence also at the end of the day ends up being a cyber activity now. It's the latest find. It's the latest find, yes. So, so imperative is idempotent. I mean, what is imperative for idempotency is to see whether multiplex signals, subprograms, subroutines, procedures, they cast assonant effect, just like a unitary signal. Just like a unitary signal would cast. So so multiplex of signals and subprograms and subroutines and procedures, are they going to have some assonance in terms of when they cast an effect, just like a unitary combined signal? So therefore, this tremendous value in cyber threat intelligence, all signals activity ends up becoming a cyber activity now. That's the new find, as I said. So therefore, evaluating the integrity of a computer database, also this would also go ahead, and when you have to establish the integrity of your government level and military grade computer systems. So looking at the integrity of the computer database, so this would mean that the digital electronic database is idempotent. I mean, having the same level of integrity and power and effect, avoiding breaches, avoiding compromises. So now we are writing, and as we wrote previously, we've been writing in reference to data breaches. As I said, we have been talking in reference to data breaches and severance, which is in for a unified approach and for ushering the artificial general intelligence models, not the adversarial AI, or maybe to counter an evolving AI, which a protagonist AI would consider as an adversarial AI, AGI. Okay, so therefore, so because that would be in abject infract of international cyber electronic rules based order. It would be in abject violation, infract of the international cyber electronic rules based order enforced by global agencies and organizations. So therefore, when you apply the cyber electronic grade idempotency to your networks as a countermeasure for polymorphous, seemingly multiform distributed denial of service attacks, you will not have to settle with enervating indefinite cyber electronic subversions by any well resourced, advanced, persistent threat groups, even if they are zombie agents. So you see, Mr. David Dietrich said, not said, he observed that any well-resourced, advanced, persistent threat adversary can power up to 1,000 cyber network destructive electronic agents. So what level of augmentation or capability enhancement will be achieved with the infusion of military-grade agentic artificial general intelligence? The net effect. What is going to be the net effect? So, as a well-resourced, advanced, persistent threat adversary can power up close to about 1,000 cyber network destructive electronic agents. So, therefore, Some machines would end up becoming pawn instruments in the great game of cataclysmic cyber supernatural wizardry. How many machines would end up being bots and pawn instruments in the great game of cataclysmic cyber supernatural wizardry? Hard to say. They say that 2025 is the year of the AGI. To wait and watch. So, what idempotency means for idempotency, we have like fascinated and stupefied and infatuated by idempotency. So, what is idempotency? For perimeterless cybersecurity, zero trust architectures, like never trust, always verify with same power. Idempotency sounds relevant though. Now, I mean, at this stage, sounds relevant though, because never trust, always verify. That was the like the slogan. Let's add never trust, always verify with the same power. So your zero trust adoption framework becomes idempotent. So we've made a slight variation. Forgive us because we made a slight variation to the slogan. Why do we have to make variations? Because we are talking about open source intelligence principles also. What you know and how you know. So therefore, let's do some additions. Potent simultaneous identification plus verification plus validation plus compliance, which is going to give you temporary, not permanent, temporary, limited, least privilege access to explicitly canonized sources. Explicitly canonized sources. Mostly on, been using Linux, canonical, Ubuntu. So explicitly canonized sources in true spirit of sacrosanct, in tune with the truth tables as mentioned earlier, to establish the integrity of your data. So, mathematical and logical idempotent standards can also be applied to identify access management with respect to role and attribute based access control. Attribute based access controls generally being more complex, and some information technology conglomerates define them as a policy or claim based access control. Therefore, cyber idempotent zero trust architecture means externalized, dynamic, fine grained authorization management, transitioning from traditional virtualization of private networks to zero trust cyber strong network architectures, which is indicatively Gordian, difficult to decipher and comprehend. So these knots can only be untied by National Security Agency, US Cyber Commands, FBI Cyber Division, US Department of Defense, National Cybersecurity Centers, and CCDCOE when they work in close collaboration. So finally, Boolean algebra remains an axiomatic system. It remains an axiomatic system, very important for binary operations, and but it is not infinite. It is finite. Axiomatic, axiomatic, axiomatizable, finitely. Okay. So therefore, uh, Defense Intelligence Agency, U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, and one of the earlier observations they said, as we're coming again, they said that open source intelligence is around 90%. They're hitting the upper ceiling, the upper side of all Intel community activity today, generally speaking. So therefore, in all cyber electronic, in the cyber electronic space, the dimensions of geometric hypercube. Geometrical, why geometrical? We've been discussing mathematical and algebraic constants, but why geometrical constants? What role is geometrically significant theory going to have? So let's look at it very nascently. If we say geometric hypercube, what role is it going to play? What role with respect to speed, time, and scale? That is why the dimensions are changing, right? So it's not just the speed which matters, the timing also matters, and at what scale of operations. So speed, time, scale. So what is the solution? They say axiomatic, logical, Boodle, algebraic standards, a logical proffer that is insusceptible to cognate evidence and substantiation. Okay. So, because the veracity and truth of the incredibly actionable intelligence must be self-evident without proof or argument to speed up the process for adoption. So, the veracity and truth of the incredible actionable intel, it must be self-evident without any proof or argument, therefore axiomatic. So now you have to welcome the age of human machine integrate dimensions, intersections. So that's your macrocosm, a cyber electronic macrocosm. Humans, machines interacting, intersecting at all levels. So you get different dimensions. So now you will have time, speed, scale, and window. Time, speed, scale, and window. The window of opportunity, which is not always available. So the window of opportunity for with respect to time to deliver with great speed and at scale. The window of opportunity, temporary, with respect to time, for to deliver with great speed and scale. So, a crowning approximation. What do you get in the end? Crowning approximation rather than ultimation. Okay, crowning approximation, closeness. Okay, rather than ultimation. So you have to overcome the dualities of false positives. To overcome what? The dualities of false positives and false negatives. False negatives being more dangerous than false positives. Yeah. So differentiation and timely accuracy for recognition of threats for deploying systematic countermeasures. Okay, differentiation and timely accurate recognition of threats. So what grade of cognitive superiority and operation will be required with respect to open source intelligence? Fortunately or unfortunately, we'll all have to revert back to mathematical operations, where open source intelligence will teach you, even if that maths is not that bad at all. Okay, just like many of us felt during our school days. Open source intelligence, which is also about mathematical diffeomorphism. So, open source intelligence is also about mathematical diffeomorphism and not just isomorphism, because in the end, all open source intelligence activity with respect to the intervening hypercube, it must neutralize all roughness, bumps, ridges, or geometric irregularities. Okay, the structural beauty, the geometrical beauty, the structure. So refining all roughness, bumps, ridges, and irregularities to see it flows beautifully, just like an aerodynamic, state-of-art aerodynamic drone. They say Rubenesque, not Ruby, Rubenesque. Okay, aerodynamic drone. So one has to ultimately dive into the underwater roller coaster rides to reroute your precious data links and make them not just air but spaceborne, like a fast moving. And that day we know that this alliance has not just rerouted the data links to space, so not just relying on underwater, cables. So they're doing it in space too. Rerouting, yeah. So like that's like an alternate routes. So you see, why do you do all this? A lot of investments and the defense industrial base, the speed and scale with which the defense industrial base is moving, calculations, the investments, the capability enhancements. I mean, at the end of it is all. At the end of it, it's all being powered by open source intelligence, activity, observations, NSA, CESA, grader, clairvoyance, and precognition. Okay, so because you're observing multiple facets, multiplex functions, elements and constants, changing, evolving, impacting each other. So each having its own additive or multiplicative inverse, some factors directly and some factors inversely proportional. So therefore, open source intelligence operatives all over the world have to ultimately map all sides of the equation. Smoothness of axiomatic maxims, data intelligence sentinels, romantically a romanticism to keep the interests alive, apophtygmatically, so infusing romanticism to keep interests alive for open source intelligence analysts to stay invested and engrossed lifelong. Lucky ones where the spark of nuptials between the agentic AI, soon to be agentic AGI agents. So the spark of nuptials between the agentic, soon to be AGI agents and open source intelligence, it must always remain as fresh as the first night. Okay, so now with all this mumbo jumbo, beautiful ladies listening to this mumbo jumbo, so you nothing but, what can one say but asking forgiveness for this mind tornadoes. Yeah, all those beautiful ladies lending their ears to this audio log. All one can do is ask forgiveness, because you see, romanticism has been infused because OSINT can sometimes, open source intelligence can sometimes get tedious. So to keep this spark of nuptials, between the agentic, not just large language multimodal modality, but behaviorally significant too. So to keep it like fresh and not stale. So you see, one instance can be of Titan Chronos. The super powerful networks, Chronos, which was a Greek mythology, a Titan. So deep perimeterization. So relying only on strict legacy solution at onion grade, onion level, defense in depth, strictly perimeter based defense in depth strategy for such a lovely network like the Chronos powerful network. So this needs to be deperimeterized, and a lot of guidance is available on through the channels of US Department of Defense's zero trust network strategy adoption frameworks. So one may call this inherited second sight. So finally, once all this has been fixed, the foliation and time perimeterization with reference to context. So the remaining diffeomorphism freedom in the coordinate freedom on the spatial hypersurfaces of the digital matrix hypercube, which no longer supports analog signals. So how have you been fixing this? The foliation and the time parameterization. Okay, looking through the geometrical polyhedron, and then finally through the hypercube. First you look through the geometrical polyhedron and then through the hypercube. Time, speed, scale, window of opportunity. Okay, so uh, um, so the remaining diffeomorphism freedom, which is the coordinate freedom on the spatial hypersurfaces of the digital matrix hypercube, which is no longer, as we know, does not support analog signals. Therefore, the only hope for the doctrines and analogies oftentimes is a hypernym of cataphatism. See, okay, not a mind tornado here, not mind bending psychedelic, because you see, there is hope for the doctrines and analogies. Okay, an analogy and analogies. Okay, so oftentimes the hypernym. What is the hypernym? Cataphatism. So sometimes when you look exactly not under the light, but in contrast, so the elementary subatomic, through all the quantum mechanics and elementary subatomic particles. So what the unimaginably concrete would be unimaginably substantiative would be when, with the advent of multimodal large language, behaviorally significant AGI, which can look, while simulating, which can look at the very elementary level, the very subatomic level, to navigate, to analyze, and to map the velocity. So all these metrics and semantics together, which will lead to the facilitation of quantification of special global intelligence worth phenomenons and translucent, abstractively diffused algorithmic trends. So this level of capability is going to impact your GIDES, your global information dominance experiments, battlefield multi-domain operations, and joint all-domain command and control warfighting capabilities, having impact on your intelligence through being impacted through your intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance at all levels across the battle space. So, so the so what it is facilitating quantification of specific global intelligence worth phenomenons and translucent, abstractively diffused algorithmic trends, because in the absence of illumination, diffraction is an integral ally. So in the absence of all illumination, diffraction will be an integral ally. And this flashlight blinked when we first glanced at each other, way back in time. So therefore, greater AI, strong AI, soon to be AGI, it remembers by virtue of its muscle memory. Most of us today carry smartphones and laptops and have access to personal computers, which we know are basic building blocks of all digital, electronic, cyberspace. So, but what greater AI and strong AI, soon to be AGI, carries and works will have to be obviously far greater. So, how is it going to achieve it? what relevance is it going to have on your open source intelligence research and activity, and how are we going to understand the difference between the macrocosm and its changing landscape and evolution, and why is the digital electronic cyber metaverse greater than the present macrocosm. So all these theories will need a lot of deliberation and uh, careful analysis. So yeah, because we know that the physics, I mean, when we studied physics, and now when you look for references in uranology, it defines the observable, what is observable in the universe, as completely and without quantification, with absolute zeal and intensity. So everything that exists anywhere, that is what you would want to know, with that level of capability, with that level of uh, augmentation. Everything that exists anywhere. Uh, from the what is celestial and heavenly to the empty spaces. So when you have the permission to look at it with Sir Einstein's polyhedron, which has two congruous, absolutely two congruous and parallel bases, and the lateral faces, they're facing they're parallelograms, and it has a triangular. It has, I mean, above the parallelogram is the triangular end with vertical axis, which is responsible for dispersion and refraction of light. So as I said, in the absence of illumination, diffraction is your integral ally. So uh, okay, so in sum up, and there's a lot of reading that needs to be done, and analysis that needs to be uh, done, because there's tremendous obscurity and obnubulation, tremendous unimaginable obscurity and obnubulation in the observable universe, which calls for reconsideration at all levels. So because of how effective is your open source intelligence model, and what you derive from the igloo of uncertainty, open closed knowledge, intelligence, ignorance, Galileo effects, nescience, probabilities, possible future events with known adverse outcomes. Uh, so you see that the digital metaverse, which, as we said, greater than the macrocosm, is the portmanteau word. It's a portmanteau word: meta plus universe, metadata plus universe, digital electronic universe, metadata plus digital electronic universe. Meta being mathematically an exponential indices of higher order, not additive but multiplicative in nature. So you see, your population grows at geometric progression. It multiplies. We say, no, you're multiplying. We don't say you are. When two people tie the wed, I mean, they marry, and yeah, and you say that it's time to procreate. So you say that you are multiplying. You don't say you are adding. So because your food production adds up, it grows in arithmetic progression. Humans, expunge this word. Humans are we grow through geometric progression. Okay, so what is your meta data in the digital macrocosm? Mathematically an exponential indices of higher order, which is multiplicative in nature. So cyber electronically, you will have to simulate virtually and augment the reality to facilitate dynamic group experiences and social interactions, mirroring the real world, into your simulation bag. Therefore, mixed bag of some pleasant and unpleasant experiences. Some happy hours, hymen regardless of geographical coordinates. So from the open source intelligence, we skipped a whole lot of paragraphs in between, but those have been compensated for. on the blog on my blog. So, but we've skipped because uh, at this very point, uh, it was not fitting in the construct. So we just skipped. Okay. So therefore, cyber electronically. Yeah, this we discussed. So, what is the open source intelligence landscape? It's a new virtual cyber portal for orbitally compa. What are you doing? You're orbitally, always in orbit, always in orbit. Compassing and comprehending behavioral analytics to prevent cyber risks, just like when AI impacts cybersecurity. So, some timely open source intelligence activity also helps in dynamic, proactive, and preemptive cyber defense intelligence postures that has enabled interdictory countermeasures to break up hostile, well resourced, advanced, persistent threat actors, battleful, psychological information warfare operations, network victimization, and other aggressive warfare tactics. So, yep, stop here. Thanks. The information intelligence landscape and the confidentiality, integrity, availability triad, enforcing adequate equilibrium and standardization of fundamental information security protocols, circumstantial and observational elation. Because for the time being, we're only looking at it through the polyhedron of the CI triad, the information intelligence landscape. Later in time, we'll be observing it through the Department of Defense's and the National Security Agency's Zero Trust Network Adoption Framework, and also through the uh, defense in depth strategies. For the moment, it's only circumstantial and observational elation based on recent contiguous events, mutual reciprocal somatogenic interactions, and algorithmic manifestations in absolute rectangular arrays. Not very convinced, positively convinced of the indisputability of this augury, may be only experientially indicative. The acquisition of essential know how to comprehend the integrate complexities in securing open source software and operating systems. When we look at it through the lens of the triad model for information security, and this largely depends on a quick acquaintance of the recent epitomic paradigms with respect to studying open source standards for even operating system security as a counterpart of the prodigious CI conventions, the normative frameworks and their utile implementations across the length and breadth of every declamatory, the opposites, absolute contrasts, whether it's a declamatory, a global military defense intelligence apparatus, or a relatively limited one. At the very outset, we'll have to say that we are over the horizon. We are looking at events electrotously fast, and the metamorphosis is rapid. I mean, rapid to the extent that when we say that information and intelligence is everything, but we also have to consider that it is everything for an apparatus inside the box when you observe and study it through structured analytic techniques, which is the source of all light in the igloo of uncertainty. So the landscape is changing electrotously fast. There is rapid metamorphosis, which is being observed, but the information and intelligence, the overall paradigm, which we say is everything, inside the box, but only when you observe and study it, analyze it through structured analytic techniques, which is the only source of all light in the igloo of uncertainty. So, therefore, an acknowledgement of appreciation for the elicitation to all your esteemed benignant selves, and also an uh, extension of gratitude and admiration to the honorable militarymen of high academies who have been heading the Directorate of Global Modern Day Philosophy and been debunking myths surrounding humanities and history, opening all doors for conjectural, hypothetical, abstractive, and inferential metaphysics. Okay, so let me come again. It is really important to acknowledge and appreciate the elicitation to all your esteemed benignant selves who An extension of gratitude and admiration to honorable military men of high academies, heading the Directorate of Global Modernity Philosophies, for debunking myths surrounding humanities and history and opening all sorts of doors for conjectural, hypothetical, abstractive, and inferential metaphysics. This requires a deep deliberation, but at the moment, I can only say that the information risk management, uh, landscape has to be analyzed and observed through structured analytical techniques. Because the countermeasures adopted against the probabilities of wildcat entry to sensitive data and information resources has to be, has to be taken into consideration. The divulgence, interruption, alteration, review, transcription, depreciation of information, electronic, physical, real, material, with the paperwork and knowledge. Also, I mean, the adequate equilibrium, ensuring that uh, we have achieved adequate equilibrium and security through data confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The triad, the deuce ace, 1+1+1, yeah, and the expeditious policy effectuation, truly expeditious policy effectuation, which has to be in sync with organizational productivity. From structured analytical techniques to structured risk management process, recognizing the valuable information assets, observing prospective latent threats, data exposure, and possible impingements and infringements, appraising of all risks from all quarters, and determination and adjudication of rapidly evolving risks, developing mitigation strategies, contrivance of appropriate and pertinent implementable security protocols, supervision of data handling activities, issues, modifications, and scope for amelioration, and calibration of protocols, paradigms, policies, standards, industry practices across all cybersecurity cognizance programs. So, trying to fetch a collective but a very brief intelligence from ISO ICs 27000 from the year 2018, CNSS 2010, Isaka 2008, Pipkin 2000, McDermott and Gear 2001, J. Anderson 2003, Venter Elof 2003, and Kouros and Ross 2010. To begin with, we will be looking at the preservation of information, confidentiality, integrity, availability. Next is authenticity, accountability, non repudiation, reliability. Then information protection, countermeasures against unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modifications, and destruction. Ensuring authorized users have access to accurate and complete information, which is integrity evaluation. Information security, which is equal to protection of intellectual property. Risk management discipline, which is also equal to cost management and information risk to businesses. Well informed assurance, which is finding the right balance between information risks and controls, minimization of data breaches and unauthorized access. Security goals starts with enforcing confidentiality, maintaining integrity, and providing availability through privacy, authenticity, and at the same time maintaining privacy, authenticity, trustworthiness, non-repudiation, accountability, and auditability. Studying a multidisciplinary and professional activity for development and implementation of security mechanisms, technical, organizational, human-oriented, and legal within and outside an organization's perimeter. Um, Now, when we combine both cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, we know that it involves assessing and managing the information security risks of an AI system. The system, which includes the application, front end, back end databases, the underlying infrastructure, hardware, and network, the underlying AI models and algorithms. Uh, Adopting a narrow view, looking at it, a narrow scope would mean protection against attacks on the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of assets across the life cycle of an AI system. an extension of scope which is complementing the narrow scope with trustworthiness, features, data quality, oversight, robustness, accuracy, explainability, transparency, traceability, and data privacy. Now, how will an strong AI, artificial intelligence, support in this endeavor for cybersecurity? You see, AI will be used as a tool to scale up efforts and create advanced ecosystem, which will facilitate areas such as, but not just limited to, advanced threat detection, behavioral analysis, predictive analysis, and the speed and scale of response. At the same time, the malicious use of AI, which is the adversarial use of AI, adversarial AI, uh, which is used to aid or create sophisticated polymorphic cyber attacks by malicious threat actors and APTs, advanced persistent threats. Examples include, again, but not limited to, most important, deepfake videos, automated social media manipulation, AI-powered cyber attacks, etc. A very quick snapshot of the obvious AI landscape and simple conceptual fundamentals. See, in the recent times, we've witnessed progression of artificial intelligence technology into mainstream businesses and general public usage due to its potential applications and manifold use and limitless opportunities. Businesses have recognized the potential power and impact that artificial intelligence could provide in scaling up businesses, improving user experience, and driving up customer satisfaction. However, AI as a model has and a concept has been around for decades. We did the military origins of artificial intelligence and the internet some time back, so we'll refer to it again. But at the moment, we are looking at the underlying models that define and build AI and that have been researched since the early 50s. Factors such as the evolution of advanced techniques in machine learning, neural networks, deep learning, the availability of significant data sets to enable robust training, advances in high performance computing, quantum powered high performance computing, enabling rapid training and development, which have led to increased interest and investment in AI, leading to development of practical AI applications that is invariably having a deep impact on the general user. As a technology, we have been inadvertently using different forms of AI in our day to day life, which consists of, but not limited to, applications. Uh, Again, not limited to, applications related to smart vision, voice recognition, video generation from images, telehealth applications, etc. However, many of these applications require a level of technicality and skills, and that is no longer the case with the advent of generative AI, like ChatGPT, which allows the common man to seek, and Gemini, which allows the common man to seek help from a tool in natural conversational style. When we talk about natural conversational style, we must also look at not neuro-linguistic programming, but natural language processing models, and dive into its conception and origins. A very interesting story behind a factual, uh, factual story behind the evolution of natural language processing systems. Again, it even owes the very inception owes its origin to the military. Now we know that this broke the technological barrier. What the advent of generative AI broke the technological barrier. You know, conversational style, day-to-day conversations, natural language processing models. They broke the technological barrier and democratization of power, a democratized power at the fingertips of the common person, which was really remarkable. Businesses and nations have long realized the potential of the artificial intelligence technology and are diligently working to harness the power of AI. For all businesses and AI, for all types of businesses, AI provides the possibilities of scaling quick, fast moving industries, unlocking businesses insights from data previously just occupied stacks of drives, and more importantly, being able to take better decisions. So you see, it really put data at rest to effective use. And from data at rest, whether encrypted or not, AI unlocked the potential of data at rest and gave us models, thereby enriching its neural networks, and led to provided incredible problem solutions to problems, not problems, but solution to problems. So when we said that data was being occupied, stacks of drives, data at rest, was put to some better use and to facilitate better decisions and thereby offering better services with better quality assurance. For nations at large, AI has the potential to be useful in achieving national aspirations. The Apollo project, in areas which include but are not limited to the following: offer better governance to its citizens and residents, enhance the efficient utilization of funds and budgets, smarter policymaking, manage pandemics and disease prevention, improve the critical infrastructure protection mechanism, enhance the defense and security mechanisms. So the question arises, how does AI, or maybe you, the listener, know? How do you know what you know? You know what? What do you know? Of the empirically, theoretical, practically common, colloquially interchangeable, expressively explicit, implicitly tacit, subjectively insightful, expertly intuitive, spiritually existential, aesthetically deep, beautifully and emotionally impactful, interpersonally relevant. Come again. That's for you, the listener. How do you know what you know? Of what? Of the empirically theoretical? Think over it. Take some time. Of the empirically theoretical, practically common, colloquially interchangeable, expressively explicit, implicitly tacit, subjectively insightful, expertly intuitive, spiritually existential, aesthetically deep, beautifully and emotionally impactful, interpersonally relevant. Yes, we all know that love is a virtue. From mathematics to logic. See, the mathematical digital life forms that do not observe time as conjurationally significant or thaumaturgical. See, from mathematics to logic, a lot of Boolean algebra going around at the moment in your mind. So I'm saying, see, all mathematical digital life forms, mathematically, when you observe them, uh, as conjurationally significant or thaumaturgical, they're not as legerdemain, not as legerdemain as a data scientist. Because you see, uh, because we are looking at time passing, which is what? Which is data being updated. See, if there is no epochal space-time intuition, if you do not have an epochal space-time intuition, people, alliances have updated their mottos. Uh, Multinational organizations, multi-level organizations, okay, they have updated their mottos based on this single fact. When you're observing time, you, as being you the listener, being the a mathematical digital life form, you are conjurationally significant, and not only conjurationally significant, but thaumaturgical. Because you see, as a ledger demon, data scientists, when they look at time passing, it is actually nothing but data being added and being updated. So when you do not have an epochal space-time intuition, it means zero change to your data set. And it squarely also boils down to the fact that greater information added to a data set is the future. In comparatively lesser information, nothing added, is the past. So when something has been added, greater information, intelligence, awareness to the data set, that is the future. And when there's been no epochal space-time intuition at your awareness level, that is your past. So the arrow of time, when you measure it numerically to evaluate the uncertainty of an outcome in modern day communication theory, uh, it is really entropically of extraordinary importance and implications. So some other time we will, because we have to um understand the intricate adoption strategies for zero trust as laid out by the Department of Defense and National Security Agency, and then also compare it with the strictly perimeter based defense in depth strategy. So, as of now, we leave you, the listener, with the arrow of time. intelligence, and Orphic dimensions. This will always call for greater deliberations and assessments. And as a human, when you are strategically analyzing the intelligence paradigms, the using applying all sorts of available structured analytical techniques, uh, even taking help of multimodal, strong AI multimodal large language models, uh, you will observe that the proffer for all intentful human and machine assisted rumination, which enables definitive coaction between humans, definitive, literally definitive coaction between humans and organizations at the upper level, and it is all inherently powered by the basic building blocks of the digital cyberspace. You see, AI augmented computers, smartphones, smart devices, data strong 5G, 6G communication networks. Okay, so so when you look at it, the proper for all intentful human and machine assisted rumination to enable, what is it enabling? When you're applying all tools available, structured analytical techniques, taking help from multimodal large language models, generative AI, of course. So this is to enable coaction between humans and organizations. The basic building blocks of the digital cyberspace: artificial intelligence, augmented computer. Now, what is powering all this? The AI augmented computers, your smartphones, smart devices, AI on device at the system on chip level, on device AI, okay, and also the data strong 5G, 6G communication networks. Um, so overall, you will find that you, I mean, you, the listener, not me, you, the listener, you have absolutely have been calculating, deliberating, you know. So let's say calculative deliberation, and you have myriad manifestations of the available algorithms, algorithms. Okay, and because you've been looking at through the lens of the polyhedron, you don't realize it quite so, but you've been looking at it through the lens of the polyhedron, both logically and mathematically, and you've been deriving values, functions, and metrics from all domains of history, philosophy. Because even if you don't realize it, you have been doing it subconsciously. You have been deriving values from where, and not just values, your functions and matrix. Uh, see, matrices and metrics. Okay, when you look at the matrix, mathematical matrices, you will find some insights, and those insights will be your metrics. Okay, those insights will be your metrics. At a future date, maybe later on in life, maybe uh, you will be able to take decisions, calculative decisions based on these heuristics. So so you have been looking at it uh, through the polyhedron, logically, mathematically, though you don't realize it. I mean, because you see, when you start realizing all these factors, I mean, it'll be, um, let's say, an analysis which would normally take half an hour would take half a day. So maybe you don't realize it, but then you're doing it subconsciously. So you've been deriving values, functions, and information from all domains of history, philosophy, fiction, science, mathematics, geopolitics, modern disruptive technology, and which is entwined into the strategic communications that you have been doing all the while. And you have been, this has been assisting in actionable prompt decisions, been elevating, you've been helping your organizations, your teams take strategic decisions, okay, and promptly. You've also been devoting, and nothing comes without focus. You've been devoting, above all the distraction, you've been devoting your focus to discern and differentiate all aspects, poignantly mobilizing the internal mechanisms of AI training and evolution uh, across the uh, through all the complex distractions around you. You have still been devoting your focus to discern and differentiate all aspects, been poignantly mobilizing the internal mechanisms of AI training and evolution, and non inheritably, not all traits are inherited. Some are, but not all. Environmentally acquired, some are environment influences us, doesn't it? The environment around you, everything around you, atmosphere above you, the atmosphere around you, influences you in ways you're not able to understand mathematically. You're not able to calculate that, but it's being influencing you. So that's not something that you have inherited. Okay. Non-bias, so you've acquired it. Remember, if most cases that we've been observing, biases are inherited. Okay. But if you are a very we've been introspecting, you'll realize that your environment, the environment around you, you have, in a way, through your work and through your passion and through your diligence, you've acquired non-bias, which will help you in your work, because it is quite effective, and it diagonally, diagonal, geometrically, diagonal. It prevents all forms of misconceptions. And also, this makes you non-resistant to positive, constructive, transformative, and evolutionary changes. So you become heuristically programmable. Okay, you can constitutionally and intrinsically simplify a preprocess discombobulated. You see, your human's constitution, your body. Okay, you will intrinsically simplify and preprocess discombobulated, discombobulated. Okay, global normal paranormal phenomenons. You will be doing it mostly consciously. Okay, and you'll be able to map it linearly. Like in mathematics, we see across the linear progression. You'll be able to map it linearly, uh, also textually and tabularly. Use grids to analyze it. Okay. Yes. Uh, every knowledge analysis uh, at your disposal, you'll be employing, and innately it will aid you. You are doing it. You will innately aid in the stratospheric. We will not say stratosphere shaking, but we will say stratospheric accomplishment. Okay, you will. This will innately aid in the stratospheric accomplishment of novel, technologically proficient approximations and abstractions, with the potential of rendering real world, workable, implementable, feasible solutions. You see, humans that are an extension of the digital cyber electronic metaverse. Uh, we have at length discussed over this time and again that the humans are an extension. You see, you look at when you map the computer networks in terms of their size, when you scale them, you will see that it's when at the very point of its inception, it was interplanetary and intergalactic. So, deriving from that concept, we see that the digital humans are an extension of the electronic and digital cyber electronic metaverse, and both telekinetically and algorithmically, through systematic consideration of telegnosis. Systematically, you have to very, very fine tune this process, and be very systematic in your approach when you are talking about telekinetics. Okay, because um, telegnosis is not easy to decipher, not easy to understand. But then maybe you have been observing it, you've been doing it knowingly, unknowingly, at the conscious, subconscious level. Still, you don't seem to realize it. We know some leaders, they have this capability. They do this in a very, very uh, beautiful way. But yes, they have this capability. Um, okay, but moving on to some types of humans that can rapidly map, you know, all the landscape, which is changing, which is shape shifting rapidly. Okay, so when something is moving really fast, so to, I mean, measure the speed and the location at the same time, pinpoint speed and location at the same time. So it's also shape shifting in the process. It's moving really fast. It's shape shifting. It's moving really fast. It's shape shifting. And then you have to cognitively analyze the different shapes, measure the speed and the location. See now, see? So this is exactly what is happening in the world of open source intelligence protocols, paradigms, the basic constituents which is consequential for paramount geostrategic grandness. Did I not tell you about leaders that have this capability? They're doing it quite beautifully. They do realize, I hope they do realize what they have been, what they possess, what they have inside them. Do they realize it? But I don't know, not too sure about it, because it is ultimately, you see, it is significantly consequential of paramount geostrategic grandness. Okay, you have to manage an organization of say 1,000 employees, and they are managing nations, countries, and look at the population. So, anyways, let's move on to the next point. Humans being non-gregarious entities. Now, not being biased, but sometimes you see Leonidas had to climb that mountain, that scale, that long, that very, very uh, steep climb. It was a very steep climb, okay, to reach the oracle. And who the oracle was? A lot of people surrounding a beautiful girl, a lady, okay, Leonidas, okay, to get some insights. He took a late in the night when everyone was sleeping. Or maybe in the wee hours, he had to climb to get uh, insights into looking for clairvoyance. Okay. Uh, yeah. So mostly inferring from those assessments, which is yes, those are movies, fiction, but then mostly single men and women. They're beyond. But for that, you have to be beyond and above the me myself. Okay, you have to be beyond that, above the me myself. Um, at the beginning, I've said non-gregarious entities, humans, non-gregarious entities, men and women, single. You see, I deeply respect, profound respect for uh, those who have so much preoccupation around them, families and relatives and everybody else to look after, and then so social. Yes, and then they manage everything to find the perfect balance. But then the ones you see again, I'm taking you to Leonidas, taking a steep climb late in the night or at VRs to meet the oracle. An unmarried girl is a oracle there at the top. So different philosophies, different schools of thought will give you different observations. Uh, you have information at your fingertips. You can explore. Therefore, the beyond, but also I have to be beyond the and beyond and above the me myself. Like okay, to beyond and above the me myself, overwhelmingly into the goal objective centric, the goal objective centric organizational. For you're dedicated towards your organization, you're working for an organization, a corporation, government, etc. So, so because you then you'll be able to reinforce all types of cyber electronic algorithmic pillars. It needs reinforcement. You see, just like the armed forces time and again they need reinforcements, okay, depending on the situation, depending on the contingencies at hand. So similarly the cyber electronic algorithms, they also need reinforcements through pristine comprehension. So there has to be very clear and pristine comprehension of the available heuristics, available information, which will help you in taking sound judgment. Okay, so I know there is a lot of other information which is has been carried forwarded. It has been yeah, from previous works, but don't really know if you'll be able to find context with what has been said, or with whatever has been discussed now. So if we fast forward it to maybe, let's see if this can be fast forwarded to what to yes. See, yeah, I've just fast forwarded everything that was generated by machine intelligence, and now we are looking at future prognostication. Now, you see, when you're looking at a whole lot of agencies and organizations that have been doing this quite amazingly. In terms of precognition, and precognitive AI, which is simulating future outcomes based on the strategic asset being data, okay? And this enables strategians, all levels, types, and with all kinds of experiences. Strategians have been developing, uh, they have been, and sometimes they extemporize generative cyber AI assisted stellar models. Okay, so they have been this level of precognitive AI, or human-based precognition, let's say, assisted through generative AI. Uh, Again, in the igloo of uncertainty, they've been predicting, not predicting. They've been using predictive analytics to simulate future outcomes. So this level of strategists, they are enabling, developing, and sometimes uh, they're extemporizing. Okay, through of course through assistance with generative cyber AI, stellar models and real-time analytical tools, whatever is at their disposal. They've been using it, and they've been providing us with real-time insights on beautifully crafted dashboards and spreadsheets. Okay. So finally, the open source model for intelligence must be reinforced on the substructure of decentralization. This would enforce open coaction amongst thinkably credible and proven information resource mobilizers, even within a specific organization. So peer production of pre-processed blueprints and documentation for application in open source appropriate technology that will generate actionable and timely intel. This is going to go a long way to determine the future of open source intelligence standards. And the communication of actionable intel, because you see, communication of actionable intel, it antedates. Really go back uh, to the days of when the time of inception for the modern day internet and personal computers. So you start from the ARPANET, because you see, we made an understatement in the past saying that the military origins of artificial intelligence and the internet, uh, going back to the time of the ARPANET, Cyclades, Opti project, and finally the more recent Opti project compared to Cyclades and ARPANET. But you know what? A whole lot of policy deliberation, policy formulation, your natural language processing models, they all, if you look at it objectively, they all owe their origins from the military laboratories and the military think tanks. So this would, maybe you can see some military journal, maybe somewhere, some part of the world, where all these findings have been documented in one place. That what did you get? So because people are so, you think of the military as like okay, for defense, for security, or uh, uh, international strength posturing, fine. But look at the technology, the evolution, whether it's policy formulation, diplomacy. Okay, a whole lot of things have been borrowed from their dictionary. Okay, look at your natural language, conversational coding using uh, natural speech conversation. So, but then this is a very interesting, and at the same time calls for a lot of commitment some other time maybe. But you see, so going back to the communication of actionable intel, which antedates modern day internet and personal computers. So when you go back in time, ARPANET think tanks and developers, they promoted a request for comments. You know, they promoted a request for comments procedures for attracting responses in the formation of nascent telecommunication networks and protocols. And this eventually led to the birth of the world's biggest collaborative project called the internet in 1969. So the biggest collaborative project that the listeners of vlogs and podcasts uh, that has enabled this conversation, which is the internet, goes back to the year 1969. Okay, so, and again, you see the other open source worldwide redistribution model for information, knowledge, intelligence, and code, which is the success of the, I mean, this open source model, because see, call for comments, request for comments. What does it mean? Request for comments. So, an open source model, worldwide redistribution model for information, knowledge, intelligence, and code, which was behind the success of The Apache Software Foundation, Usenet, Internet Relay Chats, Gopher, Berkeley Software Distribution, even Linux, which is the bedrock that supports most digital electronic platforms ecosystems. Cloud networks, servers, supercomputers, quantum computers.
We know that artificial intelligence and machine learning are fundamentally changing the way we interact with our devices, and this in turn influences and extends deeply into the core of a mobile and desktop operating system ecosystems. So, if we break down these environments and ecosystems, we get a range of personalization and user experience options. We have predictive apps and assistants where artificial intelligence anticipates user needs through machine learning powered assistants like Siri, Google Assistant, Gemini, uh, OpenAI, etc. And they recommend actions, manage schedules, and personalize the user experience based on past behavior and preferences. We also see a whole lot of smart recommendations through the app stores and platforms that leverage machine learning to suggest apps and content tailored to individual users. This improves discoverability and user satisfaction. We also see adaptive interfaces where AI can adjust the interface based on user interaction patterns and context. For instance, phone keyboards can predict words or offer autocorrect suggestions that get better with time and usage. In the security and privacy landscape, we see there's a whole lot of threat detection emerging through the use of artificial intelligence that can analyze user behavior, application activity, network traffic to identify and prevent malware, phishing attacks, and even unauthorized access. We have, on the other hand, biometric authentication, facial recognition, fingerprint scanners, iris scanners, which all rely on AI algorithms for secure user identification. On the privacy front, we see the collection and analysis of user data for personalization and security raises privacy concerns, obviously, because the operating system ecosystems need to balance user convenience with the robust data protection measures. On the performance and efficiency uh, domain, we see benefits in terms of battery optimization, where artificial intelligence can analyze app usage patterns and adjust power consumption for different processes, extending battery life on mobile devices. We also see resource allocation and resource management, where machine learning algorithms can dynamically allocate system resources like CPU and memory based on real time usage, leading to smoother performance. As far as offline capabilities are concerned, we see AI can enable features like voice commands or image recognition to function even without an internet connection, improving usability. And we have other accessibility features like voice control and text to speech translation, where AI powered features like screen readers and voice assistants make devices more accessible for users with disabilities. Adaptive interfaces, where AI can personalize the interface for users with visual impairments, offering features like font size adjustments or high contrast themes. And finally, we also see predictive text, where machine learning can suggest words as users type, making communication faster and easier. Now, as a whole, the ecosystem has evolved where we see that in application development, artificial intelligence and machine learning tools are making app development more efficient, allowing for quicker innovation and integration of intelligent features into mobile and desktop applications. There's also a whole lot of platform competition developing, where OS providers are increasingly using artificial intelligence differentiation to attract users. So, therefore, competition in the near future is going to drive further development and adoption of AI powered features. We have ethical considerations as well, where AI plays a bigger role in operating systems. Ethical considerations like biases in the algorithms and responsible data collection practices, which have become paramount over time. We must also remember that AI and machine learning are rapidly evolving fields, and their impact on mobile and desktop OSs will continue to grow. These technologies hold immense potential for creating a more intuitive, secure, and personalized user experience. However, ethical considerations and responsible development practices remain crucial for a healthy and trustworthy AI powered future. So AI is definitely playing a significant role in bolstering the security of mobile and desktop operating systems. We see in terms of advanced threat detection, where there is an anomaly detection. AI can analyze vast amounts of data on user behavior, app activity, network traffic to identify anomalies that might indicate malware, phishing attempts, or unauthorized access. This allows the operating system to take preventive measures before even the harm occurs, stopping it in its tracks. The evolving threat landscape, where traditional signature based detection methods struggle to keep pace with the ever evolving tactics of cybercriminals, artificial intelligence, with its ability And we're talking about the evolving threat landscape where traditional signature based detection methods struggle to keep pace with the ever evolving tactics of cybercriminals. Artificial intelligence, with its ability to learn and adapt, can detect new threats and zero day attacks more effectively and efficiently. Uh, uh, Security features have been augmented and enhanced by use of biometrics in behavioral analytics, where artificial intelligence can analyze user behavior patterns such as typing cadence, mouse movements, and app usage to create unique behavioral profiles. Deviations from these patterns can obviously trigger security measures when someone else might be trying to access the device. There's a lot of sandboxing going around, which where AI can be used to create isolated environments called sandboxes to run suspicious applications. This prevents malware from infecting the entire ecosystem, the entire operating system, if it manages to bypass initial defenses. We also have autonomous self-learning systems where AI-powered security systems can continuously learn from encounters with new threats, improving their ability to detect and prevent future attacks. In terms of user authentication, there's a whole lot of improvements and improvisations where multi-factor authentication has become mandatory, and AI can be integrated with multi-factor authentication systems to analyze login attempts and identify suspicious activity based on location, time, or device type. This adds an extra layer of security beyond passwords. Risk-based authentication, where AI can access the risk associated with login attempts based on factors like location and device. High-risk attempts might require stronger authentication methods, which allow for low-risk ones, which can proceed more smoothly. Challenges and considerations, yes. We have to explain artificial intelligence as AI security systems becoming more complex with every day, with every minute, because they're learning, they're growing. So, therefore, ensuring transparency and explainability in their decision making process becomes crucial. You need guard rules, right? So, this fosters user trust and helps identify potential biases in the algorithms. We have data privacy, where AI security relies on collecting and analyzing user data. Striking a balance between robust security and user privacy is essential. Overall, artificial intelligence offers a powerful toolkit for making mobile and desktop operating systems more secure. However, responsible development practices and addressing ethical concerns remain paramount for building a future where AI strengthens our digital defenses. DeepMind Technologies was originally a British artificial intelligence subsidiary of Alphabet Incorporation, and research laboratory was founded in the year 2010. It was acquired by Google Alphabet in 2014. The company is based in London with research centers in Canada, France, and the United States. In 2015, it became a wholly owned subsidiary of Alphabet Incorporation's Google parent company. The major goals are that Deep Learn has created a neural network and learns how to play video games in a fashion similar to that of humans, as well as a neural Turing machine or a neural network that may be able to access an external memory like conventional Turing machine, resulting in a computer that mimics the short-term memory of the human brain. Uh, it made headlines in the year 2016 after its AlphaGo program beat human professional Go player Lee Sedol, a world champion in five-game match, which was the subject of a documentary film. A more general program, AlphaZero, beat the most powerful programs playing Go, chess, and shogi, which is Japanese chess, after a few days of playing against itself using reinforcement learning. In 2020, DeepMind made significant advances in the problem of protein folding with AlphaFold. In July 2022, it was announced that over 200 million predicted protein structures, representing virtually all known proteins, would be released on the AlphaFold database. DeepMind posted a blog post on 20th April 2022 on single visual language model named Flamingo that can accurately describe a picture of something with just a few training images. In the same year, in July, DeepMind announced the development of DeepNash, a model-free multi-agent reinforcement, learning system capable of playing a board game Stratego at the level of a human expert. This we all know. What I personally did not know was that generative artificial intelligence and OSINT, open source intelligence, and cyber intelligence, how smartly they can be interconnected and integrated. So, we all know that the observable surface web has so far not yet been comprehensively mapped mathematically by multimodal large language learning models. Yes, this has been observed empirically. The observable surface web has so far not yet been comprehensively mapped mathematically by multimodal large language learning models. There was an interesting observation by Jane's Intelligence that around 2 decades back, the quantum of open source intelligence was just about the size of the salt one may sprinkle on its meals. Today, it represents around 95% of all cyber intel gathering and analysis driven research. We may also add the AI enabled algorithmic analysis to that trend for better, valuable, and vivid insights. Now, the deficiencies of generative intelligence range from the impairment observed by virtue of human overseers, maybe on account of enforcing guardrails. So, a recent example that may be cited in this case is the prompt to know what percentage of the global annual defense budget of countries is allocated towards the development and improvement of state-of-art, versatile, adaptable, both centralized and decentralized, distributed, edge computing powered autonomous weapon systems and platforms. Lethal autonomous weapon systems and platforms, unmanned uncrewed aerial vehicles, unmanned uncrewed ground vehicles, etc. Also, the relevant government and military policies towards this, the approach at least. I mean, what is the approach at the state level? So the prompt couldn't fetch straightforward answers or succinct analysis based on the facts from the surface web, at least so far. Maybe it must have improved in the coming days or maybe over a week's time, but so far it couldn't fetch a straightforward answer or generate succinct analysis based on facts from the surface web. So here we can clearly see that machine-based multimodal generative intelligence marked the sensitive nature of the above defense technology by virtue of being sensitive, even if the information was available on the surface web. But on the contrary, there's plenitude available on the surface web through absolutely official and legal channels. Second instance that can be cited is the query on advanced integrated modular battlefield portable battlefield management systems come ecosystems and the military metaverse. Again, a whole lot of direct information is available in the form of detailed reports on the surface web through absolutely official and non-classified channels, sources. So we believe that human cyber intelligence and defense analysts will need to pre-process this information in tabular arrays or grids for training multimodal generative AI LLMs. Also mapping the current cyber threat landscape through navigation of the web portals, reports, and documents. An order of importance for learning through data ingestion, AI, artificial intelligence, large learning, and language models prefer not dense. They do not prefer dense but significantly plain, simple English content. The whole lot of languages, vernacular, regional languages, national languages coming up. But here we're only talking about cyber intelligence, so it prefers not dense but significantly plain, simple English content. So, because that day, since I've written this in advance, so that day I was reading the zombie noun apocalypse in the military defense doctrine writing. We were deliberating time and again over and over the zombie noun apocalypse in military defense doctrine writing. So to begin with, what LLMs need right now is well organized and paraphrased linear textual notes. Next in order of importance, it prefers pre-processed information neatly organized in tabular arrays and grids. As we all know that spreadsheets and tables formats power the world's most significant and important both legacy and cloud-based software as a service ecosystems. Even the relational database management systems rely on this methodology for data ingestion, data input and output, and even you can look at the Microsoft Office, Excel, and free and open source LibreOffice, Google Sheets of Google Docs, etc. So tabular arrays, table format spreadsheets, they are everywhere and they power really significant complex analytics. I mean, make it easy to understand and do a whole lot of complex mathematical statistical computations. As we all know, by virtue of US DoD CEDAW, that artificial intelligence is nothing but machine learning, which is statistics at scale. So, establishing associations and links between keywords, key concepts, or pattern recognition remains a human analyst's job, just like we do for our mind maps. Self-aware autonomous cyber defense systems, uh, self-aware autonomous cyber defense systems should be in a position to conduct open source intelligence operations and gain credible insights into both the surface and dark web to defeat advanced persistent threats and malicious actors. Now, simplifying the entire complex process of training cyber intelligence and open source intelligence, specific AI models can theoretically begin right on our smart devices. Now, this is new. Simplifying the entire complex process of training cyber intelligence models and open source intelligence specific AI models can theoretically, so far theoretically, begin right on our smart devices. Let's say if one is on the Android ecosystem and focusing on Google Chrome while safe browsing under enhanced protection, which offers real time proactive cyber defense against threats. Now, the data gets teleported to servers of Google. This precisely can be used to build, let's say, a cyber threat intelligence model, especially for cyber analysts who choose or opt to do so. Now, not confusing this with the privacy concerns, so on and so forth. Let's not confuse this because a cyber intelligence analyst or a researcher has opted for this, has chosen to do this. So a whole lot of cyber intelligence training for multimodal generative AI learning, large learning models, large language models can take place at the elementary browsing level itself. Google DeepMind through project we started the video with Google DeepMind just to elaborate on this concept. So Google DeepMind through project Android ENV learns from human operators sessions on Android gaming, navigation, maps, calculations, flight booking, reservations, etc., etc. So also have the Android, Linux, Chrome OS, Microsoft, Windows, and Mac OS, iOS, etc. Granular operating system level, there are a whole lot of settings that can be toggled on for a lot of machine learning to take place through sharing of intelligible data, analytics, and insights. Not for the privacy conscious, not for the privacy conscious, for those who wish to build AI models, robust AI models, specific models, cyber intelligence learning ecosystems. Even Windows and Mac OS, iOS can benefit from this learning pattern. Yeah, as I've already mentioned. So for so there's a whole lot of learning pattern for cyber intelligence analysts who opt to train specific LLMs right from their smart devices, augmenting the power of cloud computing. We also understand that tremendous amount of learning happens at the granular elementary operating systems intelligence level. We see machine device learning for relevant people, app, and content suggestion from app usage times, usage patterns, screen time, personalization of keyboard usage statistics for corrections and accuracy improvement. We also see audio snippets donation in the keyboards itself. So also the option to donate your audio snippets. So we were talking about the original equipment manufacturers previously. So you see the OEM manufacturers and the OS non-encrypted cloud backup services, even they can have an effect on the user experience and system stability improvement programs because there are system logs, error analytics, bug reports, anonymous analyzation of general statistical data for improvisation and future development of product design. A device advertisements ID for ad performance measurement, etc. So all this is happening at the very granular OS level. Elementary analytics, let's call them elementary analytics. So therefore, the computer device performance and diagnostics are directly proportional to improvement in the battery life and system application stability. Now we know as I mean AI enthusiasts, the data aggregation is a boon for AI-enabled application development. Intelligible data ingestion through decentralized sources does really have a single point of convergence at data-strong cloud servers. Therefore, theoretically again, hypothesis, crafting and designing individual AI learning models custom built and fine-tuned over specific preferences is a distant possibility over the cyber electronic horizon. And this will invariably and significantly and eventually trickle down to offline AI on because we see on-device AI with on-device AI augmenting the power of edge computing and CPU, GPU, NPU. So billions of parameters just for those who do not want any real time. So this is for those who do not want any real time human overseeing and skewing of generative AI's results in real time or any interference, human interference. So therefore, we also have machines which are already augmenting the capability of onboard on-device edge AI through powerful combination of system on chip, CPU, GPU, NPU, the central processing unit, graphics processing and neural processing unit, especially the new gaming series laptops powered by NVIDIA ARMs, Snapdragon ARMs, Intel's and Samsung Exynos chips, etc. So securing open source operating system also is a part of this. So securing open source operating system and software will also remain a major challenge. We know that military intelligence grade operating system distros, variants, and software component derivatives must in future achieve immutability. So finally, the last scope for improvement in this domain of cyber and science-based strategic, yes, see the last scope, let's say the upper ceiling for the improvement in this domain of cyber and science-based strategic communications. So this is the last scope. What is the last scope? The last scope of the upper ceiling for AI to hit is the domain of cyber and science-based strategic communications, which I definitely believe that humans are better at. Let's presume that some multimodal generative AI starts learning this trait by analyzing zombie nouns, as we previously discussed, and dense military cyber intelligence defense spending. So that's what multimodal generative AI will have to look at. Learning this trait. How do you learn this trait? By analyzing zombie nouns, dense literature, military doctrines, and cyber intelligence uh, work, analytics, and analysis. So also at some point, AI-powered computer vision will have to see by virtue of ocular augmentation the elementary world of subatomic particles, dark energy, and dark matter, establish inroads into the field of noetic philosophers and SETI scientists, come explorers. Uh, so at some point, AI will have to look at computer vision It will have to see by virtue of ocular augmentation the elementary world of subatomic particles. Dark energy and dark matter establish inroads into the field of noetic philosophers and SETI scientists come explorers, because ultimately all science and mathematics began through philosophical abstractionist ideals and principles. Philosophical abstractionist ideals and principles, the mother of all science and mathematics. So this mammoth supercomputing pod, AI multimodal LLMs, will also have to connect human precognition, clairvoyance, psychokinetics, telekinesis, etc. to connect deeply deeply understand human encephalon based cognitive abilities and consciousness. So it'll have to establish connection between a human's ability to precognitate, clairvoyance, psychokinetics, telekinetics, to deeply understand human encephalon based cognitive abilities and consciousness. Computational neuroscience, neuroinformatics, and brain simulation. So, this is all that AI neural networks are already looking at. So, we know that neural simulation for the fastest super quantum computing power will have to be mapped. So, when we talk about neural simulation, uh, as we have been seeing in the development of new neural network semantics, we know schematics. We know that the fastest supercomputer with the computing power will have to be mapped. So, to simulate a brain, you will have to map the power of a computing computer, the power of a quantum computer, sorry, the power of a, you'll have to map the power of a quantum computer to simulate the human brain, just one human brain, and you will have to scale it on a logarithmic and exponential trend line. Okay, you will have to graphically scale it on a logarithmic and exponential trend line. So, one possible approach to achieving artificial general intelligence, one possible approach to achieving artificial general intelligence is whole brain emulation, from brain simulation to brain emulation. So now we have a brain model which is built by scanning and mapping a biological brain in detail and then copying and simulating it on a computer system. Or on another, let's say another computational device, the simulation model must be sufficiently faithful to the original so that it behaves in practically the same way as the original brain. So, whole brain emulation is discussed in computational neuroscience and neuroinformatics. Neuroinformatics. In what context? In the context of brain simulation for medical research purposes. It has been discussed in artificial intelligence research as an approach to strong artificial intelligence. Neuroimaging technologies that could deliver the necessary detailed understanding are improving rapidly. And we know that futurist Ray Kurzweil in the book The Singularity is near. Futurist, science fiction futurist Ray Kurzweil, in his book The Singularity is Near, predicts that a map of sufficient quality will become available on a similar time scale to the computing power required to emulate it. So, parallelly, we are mapping it graphically, parallelly, logarithmically, and exponentially. Then the trend line, the augmentation and exponential growth in the computing power of quantum machines and a single human brain from simulation to emulation. So for just low-level brain simulation, a very powerful cluster of computers or GPUs would be required. Let's give some numbers. It's the enormous quantity of synapses with the human brain. So we'll have to map it arithmetically. We know that uh, there are around 100 billion neurons, uh, and that have an average of around 7,000 synaptic connections or synapses. Uh, so, what we are seeing is the average human brain, a low level brain simulation. What level of cluster computers or GPUs would be required? That is what we are looking at. So, we know that there is enormous quantity of synapses within the human encephalon. There are around 100 billion neurons with an average 7,000 synaptic connections. Okay, to other neurons. So the brain, let's say, of a 3-year-old child has about 1 quadrillion synapses, 1 quadrillion. This number declines with age, stabilizing by adulthood. So this may vary for an adult, ranging from 100 to 500 trillion synapses. So to estimate this, an estimate of the brain's processing power based on a simple switch model for neural activity is around 100 trillion synaptic updates per second, or SUPS. So it comes to around 100 trillion for a machine. It comes to around 100 trillion synaptic updates per second, known as SUPS. Therefore, in 1997, going back in time, Kurzweil looked at various estimates for the hardware required to equal the human brain and adopted a figure of 1016 computations per second. And for comparison, computation was being equivalent to one floating point operation, a measure used to rate current supercomputers. Then 1016 computations would be equivalent to 10 petaflops achieved in 2011, while 1018 was achieved in 2022. He used this figure to predict the necessary hardware that would be available sometime between 2015 and 2025 if the exponential and logarithmic growth in the computing power uh, progresses at the time of writing. I mean, at precogitating from the year 1997. Only then we can see the emergence of self-aware artificial general intelligence and singularity of sentience. All right, so again, moving on to more unexplored regions, this will definitely and inadvertently and invariably lead to the tremendous evolution in the field of autonomous cyber defense systems. I mean, self-aware AGI, self-awareness of self-conscious AGI. Okay, so it will inadvertently and invariably lead to the tremendous development of autonomous cyber defense systems that will definitely, should definitely act as a countermeasure for antagonist and adversarial AI powered powerful distributed denial of service attacks and polymorphic malware obfuscation, and also compelling and transubstantiating phishing scams. So it may very well one day protect advanced modular portable battlefield management systems against APT-based cyber electronic warfare. That day, we were reading in some military defense journal that signals intelligence has become a cyber activity. As we all know, that cyber is the only domain that interacts and interferes with air, land, space, and maritime operations. So we get to see tremendous earth-shaking innovations in military, cyberspace, defense, intelligence, industrial complex, and it can be observed, and analysts can clearly attribute this to the last decade or so. Most analysts have been attributing this development to the last decade. So now, if we task machine-based generative intelligence to infuse zombie nouns in this seemingly lucid conversation and make it needlessly dense, from a human reader's perspective at least, we may ambiguously conclude that generative AI is locomoting on the boundaries of self-awareness. If we perceive that machine on our perception that machine-based generative intelligence can infuse zombie nouns into the seemingly apparently lucid conversation. So lastly, one may believe that we desperately need, okay, now this was all about generative AI, cyber threat intelligence, domain, attributes and frameworks. So now, making the work of cyber analysts a little easier, AI automation in web development will be so essential. I mean, it is so essential for web development, especially when you convert PDF and presentation documents to web formats and HTML. See, the present state only allows document embeds, which do not, I mean, especially on your small mobile devices, it doesn't really, it's not really user friendly. reading rich PDF documents and presentations. So, what we need is native document conversation to HTML, which must support clickable hyperlinks and convert video links automatically into playable video embeds. So all a researcher or analyst or a developer has to do is just upload his document or presentation to a content management powerful platforms like WordPress and Drupal used by the White House and Medium used by NATO. So we these platforms can infuse AI into their systems where it will automatically populate documents as native in native web formats and HTML. So all a person has to do is get an account, subscribe to a service, and just upload the document. So rest will be taken care of. So that's what AI should be doing. So it will populate the content and resources appropriately in a predefined format, page wise, post wise, etc. etc. So that's all smart web development automation is all about. Don't know how much time it is going to take. I'm definitely not talking about w- document embeds. I mean, that's a whole lot of the plugins available for document embeds. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at native conversion, okay, where it becomes interactive web formats, uh, interactive web formats which can be crawled by bots and robots, and which and a whole lot of search engine optimization can search engine and social network integration can be facilitated. Therefore, finally summing up, we know that human intelligence, just a few, just a minute or so maybe. So we know that human intelligence, psychic second sight abilities, they get influenced all the time by elementary subatomic particles and electromagnetic energy waves that are not a part of our deoxy, I mean, our DNA at the protoplasm or cytoplasm level whatsoever. So the credit will never go to a human alone. Never. So our consciousness and cognitive abilities are not our alone. Let's make this very clear. They get influenced all the time by imperceptible external factors and forces, even in isolation and transcendental states. So, as not much is known about the clearly in astronomy, in uranology, much is not known about the lion's share of energy and matter, dark energy, dark matter observed through the prism of the tesseract. When you observe it through your powerful telescopes, and subconsciously, when you observe it through the prism and the tesseract of elementary subatomic particles, we know that it most likely operates in the circumpolar macrocosm. I mean, the energy and matter, the lion's share of energy and matter in the macrocosm operating in the circumpolar macrocosm, uh, made up of the elementary subatomic particles, majority of which the lion's share we do not know. Some say 70% is unknown. So, therefore, the philosophy that one can achieve infinite heights if one does not concern oneself with who gets the credit for accomplishment of a work related project, acquiring more organization specific oriented approach.